I've been really lucky, blessed with the position I have.
It has the potential to be the easiest way to commercialize an alternative source.
We take the urban hip hop beat and marry that with a positive message.
Today on Spotlight, her life's work is helping immigrants for the last 42 years. Plus, why the Department of Defense is creating rubber from sunflowers in St. Louis. And then a novel said to tug at the deepest places of the soul. But first, positive hip-hop teaching teamwork and mindfulness. It's Sunday and you're watching the Emmy Award-winning Spotlight. You may recognize the song and even the characters, but what about this?
If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. Clap your hands. Now if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands.
This is Healthy Hip Hop.
With Healthy Hip Hop, we are the Sesame Street of the 21st century. And what we do is we take the urban hip hop beat and then marry that with a positive message that's focused around education and health and wellness.
Founder Roy Scott came up with this idea while pursuing a career as a rapper.
On that journey, I had my wake-up call when my son, Justice, he was about 4 years old at the time. I picked him up from school and I noticed him repeating my music word for word. And so, those lyrics promoted drugs, violence, degraded women. And that was just my light bulb moment that I couldn't do this anymore.
So he started creating songs with a positive message, along with dances for kids to learn.
Like, teacher, can you help me with my writing? Say you'll never ever leave from beside me, cause I need help with my homework. Gotta keep my grades up.
You can see it and imitate it right away. And that's how schools typically use us. They'll do, morning energizers to start their day, or they'll do, brain breaks. Studies show that too, that when kids are more physically active, either prior to or during learning, it helps improve focus and retention.
Living my best life, not going back and forth with you children. I'm living my best life.
Healthy Hip Hop is for kids ages pre-K to 5th grade.
I knew we needed some signature characters. And so that's when I met my co-founder, Wes Smith, who created PJ Panda. And so we created a suite of characters for Healthy Hip Hop.
Wanna be healthy, I like to be healthy. My physical health, mental health, I take care of myself.
But his messaging is all about, no bullying, eating right, exercising, being good students, being good citizens, but doing it in a way that's just fun and, not corny.
Scott has a team of writers and producers now, although he almost had his big break in 2016 when he got to present on Shark Tank.
Closed a deal with Kevin O'Leary, aka Mr. Wonderful, one of the hardest sharks to close. It was a $500,000 investment. Well, only to have our episode blocked from airing and our deal pulled off the table because ABC, the network that Shark Tank comes on, is owned by Disney. And they looked at our children's programming as competition. And so welcome to Hollywood is what we were told.
But just like his songs teach, you must persevere.
Even with all eyes on me, I'm never gonna fold. I'm a climb higher than the clouds can't go. So when you hear them calling me to go, just remember I told you so.
Staying positive. Sure, you can learn that lesson on Sesame Street, but it just might be more fun learning it from Healthy Hip Hop.
Embrace the journey, just be in the moment, and gotta be flexible. You definitely gotta be resilient.
We ain't never giving up, and if you fall down, you just get back up.
Follow HEC Media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Her name is nearly synonymous with the International Institute of St. Louis. Anna Crossland has made it her life's work to create opportunities for immigrants. Through her 42 years at the helm of the Institute, she's made St. Louis a refuge for people all over the globe. Because of Crossland's vision, immigrants find St. Louis to be a welcoming gateway to a new life. Whether they fled Vietnam in the 1970s, Bosnia in the 1990s, or Middle East or African countries in the 21st century.
We provide what is needed by the populations that happen to be coming at a given moment. And so if you look back historically, we've always taught English since day one, because we recognize that if you can't communicate in English, it really is a barrier to being able to totally acclimatize to being in America. The economic opportunities really aren't going to be available to you unless you can provide some basic skills for people that don't have them, or connect people with skills to the jobs that are out in the community. And so employment has always been a big part of what we do. And being able to provide the care and counseling and connectedness, especially for people who might arrive over here traumatized and really deprived of part of their family, part of their lives. Their whole story sometimes almost disappears. And so being able to help people like this who really have so little when they arrive, and yet are, number one, tremendously resilient, and number two, have assets to be able to offer to the community, is really what the International Institute is about.
It might be said Crosland was born for the position. She's the daughter of a Japanese immigrant and an American military father who served in the Korean War. When she was 7 years old, her father's plane was lost at sea. New to this country, her immigrant mother was left with 3 young children. Her paternal grandmother helped to raise them.
I've always been drawn to the International Institute and what is provided here, because it's the helping hand for people who may not have that American-born grandmother or a volunteer to be able to help them out on the outside. But the Institute then attempts to be that connector between the newcomer and the wider community.
Crosland came from Seattle to St. Louis to attend Washington University. After graduation, she worked at the university's Office of International Studies.
I learned to write a grant. I learned to write a grant and package a grant at a time when refugee resettlement was beginning to evolve in this country. And so if you remember 1978, early 1979, it was the time of the boat people, the busted boats floundering on the South China Seas. People knew that something was going to happen in terms of a refugee resettlement program.
In 1978, she was offered the position of executive director at the Institute.
The organization was very small. There were 9 staff, including the housekeeper and the part-time maintenance guy and a couple of part-time English instructors. And we were located in a circa 1890 Victorian mansion in the Central West End. We taught classes in the attic, up on the 3rd floor, and in the top of the carriage house.
Before the travel ban, the Institute helped 6,000 immigrants and refugees each year, with everything from housing to job placement to microloans for startup businesses.
Refugees and immigrants bring opportunities to the community. They provide a cultural vibrancy to the community that adds to it and attracts and retains others who, in fact, are looking for a global environment in which to live. They are far more likely to be entrepreneurs and job creators than the general American population has been. You still can be a unique individual within the larger society of America, and that all of us should appreciate our differences, value our differences within an inclusive society that welcomes everyone.
With a goal in mind of celebrating cultural differences, Crosland co-founded the annual Festival of Nations. She also helped co-found the St. Louis Mosaic Project, an organization that works to attract immigrants to the region.
That's really, I think, a challenge that we have, because it's about population loss among the wider community that we have here in St. Louis City, county, etc. How do you add population? Well, population right now mostly is added through immigration. And so the cities around the United States that are growing because of immigration. I mean, that's the bottom line.
In recognition of her long career, Crosland was recently awarded a Lifetime Achievement Award by the Missouri Commission on Human Rights. As she prepares to retire, Crosland leaves the International Institute on a solid footing. Although she's been the catalyst to the organization's growth, she says it's always been a team effort.
There are a huge number of people here that, as leaders and staff people and volunteers, that have done enormous work behind the scenes. And, with a 100-year record here in the community as well, our roots are really deep. People say, well, how'd you stay here for 42 years? And I say, well, part of it was that the organization, as I said, was very small when I arrived. And every 5 years or so, the population we were serving would change. A new grant came online, a new service. We opened a new program or a service, and all of a sudden the organization was different than it was 5 years before. So I've been really lucky because I've actually worked for 3 or 4 different organizations in those 42 years. I just never had to leave the International Institute in order to do it.
Occasionally, Crosland will run into families she's helped who are now second or sometimes third generation Americans.
That's my greatest accomplishment, is that I helped to provide a life and an opportunity for people who might not have been able to have it should the International Institute, and to a degree I, had not been here to be able to help.
HEC Media, bringing you culture and community. Find all of HEC's positive programming and award-winning content at hecmedia.org.
Sunflower farms bring joy during the pandemic. Over the summer months in the U.S., people find a ray of sunshine in sunflower fields, spending time outdoors with family and friends, taking photos and posting. For some time now, David Woodburn has looked upon sunflowers as hope for the future in another sense. This is a sheet of natural rubber, sunflower rubber, produced from sunflowers grown in a lab. Woodburn says, as far as he knows, it's the world's first sample of natural rubber produced from sunflower leaves. Woodburn is CEO of Edison Agrosciences. The St. Louis startup company is using gene editing technology to increase a sunflower's natural rubber production for extraction.
So what I'm doing is actually isolating the embryo from a sunflower seed.
Adding more rubber-producing genes to the sunflower plant. In addition, it's not just natural rubber, but it's also the type of natural rubber, like molecular weight. We may be able to design what type of natural rubber the plant produces by altering the genes that are in there, putting what genes in or emphasizing certain genes, or even editing and taking certain genes out that maybe limit the plant on how much rubber it produces.
Woodburn oversees the growth of their first sunflowers at the Donald Danforth Plant Science Center in St. Louis. Woodburn explains 90% of the world's natural rubber comes from one geographic area, Southeast Asia.
Natural rubber is taken from the para rubber tree. It's an unbelievably manual, slow process. So it's very susceptible to disease, because you're slicing the bark almost on a continuous basis.
Which would greatly impact production of the world's supply of natural rubber. There is synthetic rubber derived from petroleum.
Believe it or not, even with the technologies that we have today, synthetic rubber doesn't meet all the performance characteristics of natural rubber. So high performance applications, now it may be certain medical devices, simple as tubing or gaskets, aircraft tires, are 100% natural rubber because of the performance required from heat to cold to the weight that they're supporting. For passenger car tires, at least for what I drive, it's probably about 30% natural rubber, 70% synthetic. For a high performance race car, it'd be more like 100% natural rubber there.
Creating self-reliance for natural rubber appeals to the U.S. Department of Defense. Edison Agrosciences received nearly $2 million in federal grant funding from the DoD. With the money, Edison is developing sunflower as a production system for natural rubber used in defense and civilian aviation. Woodburn explains the rubber market is valued at over $100 billion annually, with natural rubber having a share of about $42 billion. It's essential for manufacturing tens of thousands of consumer, medical, and industrial products.
We're never going to replace with sunflower plants all the natural rubber that's produced by para rubber trees in Southeast Asia. But keep in mind, the United States doesn't produce any of its own natural rubber, zero. So it's all imported. It's about 1 million tons per year. Now, if we took the peak sunflower acreage in the US and our target yield of natural rubber in sunflower, we could meet about 80% of that demand with sunflower. Sunflower isn't the densest or the highest producer of natural rubber, but when you think about the potential of a large plant and an already commercialized crop, it has the potential to be the easiest way to commercialize an alternative source.
Providing another ray of sunshine, more opportunities for farmers.
A curtain call for the Muny's president later on Spotlight.
Best-selling author Jill McCorkle is known for mining memories and secrets in her acclaimed novels. In her latest book, Hieroglyphics, she explores the layers of the past as an archaeologist might decode an ancient language. Told from multiple points of view, Hieroglyphics explores family secrets with McCorkle's trademark wit and wisdom.
It really is a novel about memory. It focuses on 4 main characters, an elderly couple, Frank and Lil, who have recently retired from their home in Massachusetts of many years to North Carolina to be near their daughter. And they also happen to be near the place where Frank spent a portion of his boyhood. So he is becoming more and more obsessed with getting back into that house and yard to see how it compares to his memories. The people living in the house, a young single mother, Shelley, and her son, Harvey, who are in a very difficult place in life and not wanting to let this stranger into their home. So there's that situation. And then Frank's wife, Lil, is meanwhile spending her time collecting all of her old journals and notes and pieces of her life and trying to put them in some order. In many ways, she's editing her life for her children and making decisions about what they may or may not need to know.
The title, of course, hieroglyphics, you think of Egyptian writings, and then I think of Lil writing letters to her children.
Absolutely. And I had all kinds of writing in mind. Shelley's taking shorthand, which is another language. Harvey has a Klingon decoder ring. Frank, as a boy, had a Captain Midnight decoder badge. And I was also thinking how, for a long time, I wasn't sure how Shelley and Harvey and Frank and Lil connected in this present day life. But as soon as I realized the house, the actual house connects them, and then thinking of it as an archaeological dig, Harvey is growing up on top of where Frank once grew up. And Harvey's even finding these little bits, these tokens left behind that are connected to Frank's boyhood. So that's, for me, as soon as I recognized that, it sort of clicked into place how those two characters connect.
So now you're a teacher as well. You've worked with, I'm sure, a lot of aspiring writers. What kind of advice do you give them or have for them?
The more you write, the more you write, and so even those days when you're not quite sure where it's going, I'm really big on just keep looking, and I think sometimes the trick is to maybe turn your attention to some aspect of that character's life. What is this character interested in? And you go and you read a little bit there and dabble. And it's amazing how all the pieces start to find a way of connecting.
Text Jill to 31996 to watch the full interview and find out why she wrote parts of her books in grocery store parking lots. You can also download our Talking with Authors podcast.
HEC Media presents Talking with Authors, the podcast. Your favorite writers and genres, with diverse subjects and styles, with new podcasts dropping bi-weekly. Subscribe to Talking with Authors wherever you get your podcasts.
In partnership with the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra, here's Songs of America. Visit SLSO.org to see more from the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra.
He's not a singer. He's not a dancer. But at the Muny, Denny Reagan is the star of the show. And now, after more than 50 years working behind the scenes, the president of the Muny has announced he will be taking his final bow at the end of 2021.
It is my life's work. I've been really lucky, blessed with the position I have, and I do not take it for granted.
HEC-TV interviewed Reagan at length in 2016 for a documentary on the Muny's 100th anniversary. He shared with us some of his favorite memories, working his way up to the top from the very bottom, picking up trash after the show.
Did that for a couple of years, and then I graduated from high school in 1970, and I was out here getting the equipment ready for the cleanup crew, and somebody in the office spotted me and said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Getting things ready for the cleanup crew." And they said, "Well, we need you to clean out a closet." So that was the beginning of my administrative role here at the Muny.
Reagan went on to hold just about every job there is at the Muny, including a stint as the theater's celebrity chauffeur.
Jim Neighbors, I had to pick him up at the airport, I remember. And when I picked him up, he didn't want to go right to his hotel. He wanted to go to the theater first. And I said, okay. He had never seen the place before. So he got out of the car, and I won't do it justice, but he said, "Golly, that's a big place." I drove Sonny and Cher around. That was kind of interesting because their rider called for them to be driven around in a Rolls Royce. I grew up in South St. Louis, and I got to take that car home at night. So you should have seen me driving around South St. Louis in a Rolls Royce that one evening. It was quite an entertaining evening.
There are few theaters where the boss is as well known to the audience as the headliners, but Denny Reagan is the exception.
I started standing out there in 1976, and I have missed one performance since that time. That was in 1981 when my brother got married. I was here till 5 p.m. that day, but I did have to leave for the wedding. But other than that, I've been at every performance here, and I stay till the end because I do want to hear the reaction of the people as they're leaving the theater.
You are unique.
Now, at age 68, Reagan says the time has come to retire.
7, 8.
Yes, the show must go on, but Denny Reagan will be truly a tough act to follow.
I've enjoyed every single moment of it. I love coming to work, the culture around here of joining together and solving problems and then entertaining 300,000 or 400,000 people every summer is something that gives me a whole lot of satisfaction.
It's the oldest and largest outdoor theater in the country. The Muny has been making magic for 100 years.
The seats seem to go on for miles.
When that audience claps and it's a full house, there's nothing like it.
The Muny is totally unique.
No one does 7 shows in 8 weeks. That's an insane schedule.
Every element is created here. The costumes, the scenery, the makeup, the props.
Mammoth Productions, 11 days of rehearsal, St. Louis, outdoor, summer theater. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any logical sense.
But that is precisely when and where it happens.
Big, giant, magical beast of incredible Muny magic.
Dozens of interviews tell the story of the Muny's incredible milestone.
It's ours, it's St. Louis's, it's a part of our life. It absolutely represents the best of us.
The best of us. 100 seasons of Muny magic.
Next week, Opera Theater pivots because of the pandemic. Their plan for the year. Plus, a civil rights pioneer and how her writing healed her past pains along with her powerful message for young people. Thanks for watching Spotlight. Join us next Sunday at 9:30 a.m. on KPLR 11.